Will Ambiorix organize yet another conspiracy with the help of the Germans? What will Caesar do to prevent it? Subscribe to the channel and watch the video to know it. Have fun. After coming from the Menapii to the Treveri, Caesar decided to cross the Rhine for two reasons. First, because they had sent reinforcements to the Treveri against him. Second, to prevent Ambiorix from having a refuge with them. After making these decisions, he began to build a bridge a little above the place where he had previously led his army across. Using the same method and with great enthusiasm from the soldiers, the work was completed in a few days. Leaving a strong garrison among the Treveri at the bridge to prevent any sudden movements from them, he led the rest of the forces and cavalry across. The Ubii, who had previously given hostages and surrendered, sent envoys to him to clear themselves, explaining that they had neither sent reinforcements to the Treveri from their state nor broken their loyalty. They begged and pleaded that they should not suffer punishment for the crimes of others out of general hatred for the Germans. They promised to provide more hostages if he wished. Caesar, having understood the situation, found that the reinforcements had been sent by the Suevi. He accepted the explanation of the Ubii and inquired about the routes and approaches to the Suevi. A few days later, the Ubii informed Caesar that all the Suevi were gathering their forces in one place and were instructing the tribes under their control to send reinforcements of infantry and cavalry. Upon learning this, Caesar made provisions for grain, selected a suitable place for a camp, and ordered the Ubii to drive their livestock into the towns and bring all their possessions from the fields into the strongholds, hoping that the lack of supplies would force the barbarians and inexperienced people to fight under unfavorable conditions. He ordered frequent scouting missions to the Suevi to find out what was happening among them. The Ubii carried out these orders, and after a few days, they reported back that the Suevi, upon receiving reliable news about the Roman army, had withdrawn with all their forces, and those of their allies to the farthest part of their territory, into an enormous forest called Basinus, which extended far inward and acted as a natural wall, preventing incursions and attacks between the Suevi and the Cherusci. The Suevi decided to await the arrival of the Romans at the edge of this forest. Since we have reached this point, it seems appropriate to describe the customs of Gaul and Germany and how these nations differ from each other. In Gaul, not only within every state and in every district and region, but almost in each household, there are factions, and the leaders of these factions are those who are considered to have the highest authority in their judgment, to whose decision and judgment the ultimate resolution of all matters and plans is referred. It seems that this institution was established long ago for this reason, that no one from the common people should lack assistance against the more powerful, as everyone ensures that their followers are not oppressed or circumvented. Otherwise, they would have no authority among their people. This same principle applies to the whole of Gaul, for all the states are divided into two factions. When Caesar arrived in Gaul, the Aedui were the leaders of one faction and the Sequani of the other. Since the Sequani were weaker on their own, as the Aedui had traditionally held the highest authority and had many clients, they allied themselves with the Germans and Ariovistus, and brought them over to their side with great promises and offers. After several successful battles and the killing of all the Aeduan nobility, the Sequani became so powerful that they drew many of the Aedui's clients to their side, took the sons of Aeduan leaders as hostages, and forced them to swear that they would not make any plans against the Sequani. They also occupied part of the Aedui's territory by force and assumed leadership over all of Gaul. Driven by necessity, Diviciacus went to Rome to seek help from the Senate, but returned unsuccessful. However, with Caesar's arrival, the situation changed. The Aedui got their hostages back, their old client networks were restored, and new alliances were formed through Caesar. Those who had joined the Aedui's friendship saw that they were treated with better conditions and more equitable rule. As a result, the Sequani lost their preeminence, which was taken over by the Remi. The Remi, understanding that they were gaining favor with Caesar, were joined by those who, because of old enmities, could not align with the Aedui. These people placed themselves under the Remi's protection. Thus, the Remi maintained their newly acquired and sudden authority. At that time, the state of affairs was such that the Aedui were considered the leading people, and the Remi held the second place in dignity. In all of Gaul, there are two kinds of people who are of any rank and honor. The common people are almost in the position of slaves. They dare not act on their own and are not consulted in any matters. Most, when oppressed either by debt, heavy tributes, or the injuries of the powerful, surrender themselves into servitude to the nobles, who have the same rights over them as masters over their slaves. Of these two classes, one is the Druids, and the other is the Knights. The Druids officiate at the worship of the gods, regulate public and private sacrifices, and explain religious questions. A great number of young men flock to them for training, and they are held in great honor. They decide almost all disputes, whether public or private. If any crime has been committed, if a murder has occurred, if there is a dispute about inheritance or boundaries, they decide it and decree rewards and punishments. If anyone does not abide by their decision, they are banned from the sacrifices, which is the heaviest punishment among them. Those who have been thus banned are considered impious and wicked. Everyone avoids them, shuns their approach and conversation, for fear of receiving harm from their contact. Justice is not given to them when they seek it, and no honor is granted to them. One Druid is in charge over all the others and holds the highest authority among them. Upon his death, if any among the rest is of distinguished standing, he succeeds. If there are several equals, the succession is decided by a vote of the Druids, sometimes even by force of arms. These Druids meet at a certain time of the year in a consecrated place in the territory of the Carnutes, which is considered the center of all Gaul. Everyone who has a dispute comes together from all directions and abides by their decrees and judgments. It is believed that this system of discipline originated in Britain and was transferred to Gaul, and now those who wish to study the subject more thoroughly generally go to Britain to learn. The Druids are accustomed to being exempt from war, nor do they pay tribute together with the rest. They have an exemption from military service and freedom from all burdens. Attracted by such great rewards, many join their ranks of their own accord, while others are sent by their parents and relatives. It is said that they learn a great number of verses there, and so some remain in training for 20 years. They do not think it proper to commit their doctrines to writing, though in almost all other matters, public and private, they use Greek letters. They seem to me to have established this practice for two reasons: because they do not want their teachings to become common knowledge, and because they do not want their students to rely on writing and neglect the cultivation of memory, which happens to many when they rely on written texts. They want to instill this above all, that souls do not perish, but after death pass from one body to another. And they believe that this doctrine is a great incentive to bravery, as it makes men disregard the fear of death. They discuss and hand down to the young many things concerning the stars and their movements, the size of the world and the earth, the nature of things, and the power and authority of the immortal gods. Will Caesar face the Druids now? Let's have a look. The next video will tell us more. Subscribe to this channel and share the video if you liked it. See you in the next Gaulish tale.